my friends, welcome back. It is my next video in the series that I've been recording where I take a look back at my old artwork that I produced and really review it with a more critical eye. I take the opportunity to critique it, looking at it as if I'm somebody else, and hopefully point out some of the areas where maybe I fell a little short back in the day, or also point out the areas where I had reached a milestone. Maybe I'd figured something out, whether it was the materials or the process or just the skill set that I needed in order to produce the comic book work that I wanted. My goal with these videos, I hope, has been to help educate young artists. And I always use the term young. Young doesn't mean age. Young just means somebody who is learning. You could be in your teens, 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, whenever you decide you want to start drawing and start producing a form of art. It could be anything. It could be sculpture. It could be painting. It could be animation. It could be computer art. It could be theater or writing, whatever it is. The important thing here that I hope that I'm getting across, as well as the art tips specifically, is that all these things take time and it takes work. You have to put in the hours to get to where you want to go. Nobody begins day one and is a master at what they're doing. You need to put in that practice and that time. And what I am doing is, I hope, again, my goal with these videos is to show you where I started as a teenager, as a young teenager, and how my work progressed as I put the time into it. So if you're a young artist and maybe you're struggling because you feel like I'm not where I should be, I've been drawing for a couple of years now and I'm not getting this piece, or I'm struggling with my faces, or I'm struggling with my perspective, whatever the case may be. These videos are to show you that I went through the exact same thing, and I can tell you that every artist goes through the exact same thing. And over time, you're going to improve. And if the things that I can point out and show you help you, maybe get things clicking for you a little faster, so that you don't have to just learn through just trial and effort, that's great. That's what I'm here to do. But yeah, if it's hopefully there's again, if you're struggling or you're feeling like maybe you're going to give up or I'm not getting it or whatever the case may be, realize that so far throughout these videos, I've taken you from the uh, the 80s through some of the 90s and into the early 2000s, and now we're starting to head into um, the middle of the 2000s, so 2005, 2006 area. So I've covered multiple decades, and I still have decades to go, right, to show you um, where I am today, and to the point where I still continue to learn and improve my own work every day. So if it doesn't come quick, you're not where you want to be, don't give up. Put in some more effort. Put in some more time. It's the only way you're going to get better. But if you have a passion for it, the work is fun and it's worth doing. So keep up with it. That's my message to you. Don't give up. Keep working. We all work and we all get better every single day. That's the goal. Now, the pages I'm going to show you today are a little bit different. These are printouts from photocopies of the original penciled pages. So in this particular case, the publisher of the comic book that I was doing insisted on owning all of the original artwork. So the only thing that I got back were photocopies of those pages. And what you're going to see is, so what I've done is I've printed them out, and as we review them, instead of just pointing things out, I've actually got some of these pretty bright green pens. I'm going to be able to draw on these because I've printed copies of them. And so I'll be able to really highlight and show you what I'm talking about visually, and hopefully that helps. But for young artists, again, if you're working with somebody and the publisher tells you they are going to keep all of your original artwork, might be a little bit of a red flag for you, especially today where things can be scanned and digital files are sent. There's no reason for you to send them all of your original artwork necessarily. So yeah, you should have copies of that. You need that for portfolio reviews. You need that work for submissions so that you can show editors or show publishers. You'll see in these printouts of these copies, the resolution, the quality is low enough that a publisher or an editor couldn't really get a great sense of what I was doing with this artwork. So in any case, that's kind of the problem and something to watch out for. So there's my my advice for that. Let me go ahead and set up the pages, and we'll take a look. Okay, here we have the first page, and as I've done with the other videos, as we get into more specific things or little details I want to show you, I'll definitely zoom in with the camera and you can see what we're talking about here. So the originals of these, I did not ink these pages. So I did all the pencils, and they were then sent to an inker who then inked them. But at this point, I had never had anybody else ink my pencil pages. So I did not know how detailed I needed to be, or how undetailed I needed to be. Or was that person going to be able to finish what I started if I gave them enough information? So I basically penciled these pages almost like I was inking them. So they are complete, short of just filling in all the areas that are black, so that any of the things you see that have little X's in them, that means that the inker would go in and make that a solid black area. And even some of the solid black areas I filled in, with pencil. So this is not with ink. It's just that, again, the printout and the scanning and the photocopies make it look that way. But these were all just original pencils. These are not the ink pages. So the other thing I'll tell you is that this was all done by completely full script. And when I say full script, what I mean is the writer wrote panel 1, that wide shot, military compound or warehouse in Russia. It is cold. It is snowing. We see people with guns. We see a crane in the background. Panel 2. Soldiers are moving a nuclear bomb onto a trailer of some kind. Panel 3, close-up of the crane worker. Something is going wrong, and he's struggling, and it's going, and the missile and the chain is going out of control. Panel 4, it crashes into a tree, snow falling all around. Panel 5, the commander of these mercenaries or Russian army, whatever they are, comes out of his trailer screaming, to find out what is all the commotion. So I have very little leeway in regards to how many panels I'm putting on the page, what's in those panels. But the only thing that I could choose to do was the size. I could have made this panel smaller, this panel bigger, that kind of stuff. And even then, it was a little bit limited. So, but let's talk about what I could do and what would work. So here in the beginning, I'll actually look at panel 1 this way. So in panel 1, we've got this establishing shot of it's supposed to be like a work trailer. You can tell it's snowy. We've got some trees. We've got some cloud areas. We've got the cigarettes making smoke there. So there's smoke coming out of the trailer. Trees are shadowy. This is been forest in the background. So this building here, this trailer, and this sort of warehouse thing is what I was trying for, I guess, are not in the same perspective. And what that means is that this line here, if I was to draw this off into space forever and ever, would never line up with this. They don't go to the same space, the same distance off in space. This goes this way, this goes this way. So you can see like this goes if you just continue this line forever and ever, these two lines will never meet to a point. But the whole point of perspective is that everything eventually goes to a single vanishing point. So these, it doesn't line up. The perspective is wrong. The details on a warehouse. Again, this is late enough, and you'll see in the next page. I certainly could have used the internet and reference a warehouse. I don't know that it was important enough to the story to make sure that it reads as a warehouse as opposed to just square with some little rectangles for windows. I mean, you can see there's a truck and there's a door and there's some stuff inside. So I think it's okay, but it just becomes this very big blank space, and this could have been something that would have been done to show more warehousing. This guy over here, so I want to have a foreground piece, something in the foreground here to show the depth. That this is in front of this, which is in front of this. This guy here, stuffed into this corner, doesn't really do it well for me. I want to show this, so it would have been just as simple to come over here, right, and put this guy in his big hat in the foreground. So I have this right here. He's got his gun. He's on patrol. Right, so he's here. Maybe put him there. And then put another guy on patrol that's smaller but still, so that's behind him. So they would overlap to show that this guy is behind him and he's got a gun. And they're patrolling the area. That creates a stronger foreground, middle ground with the trailer background. So that's what I would have done differently there for sure. So fix the perspective, more detail on the warehouse, move this guy. There's no reason to have him stuck into a corner because all this white snowy area here does nothing. It's empty space that just shows snow. Doesn't do any good. Okay. These panels here. So we want to show that this is a bomb. You can see it's got the Russian logo on it. So I don't know if it's. I don't remember if these guys are Russians or they're stealing Russian, black market stuff. I don't know. It's important for the story that you show that they're dealing with a bomb. So it needs to be big enough in a trailer, and you can see the guys lowering it. So two things. One, I'm thinking this panel here is sort of the action of, oh no, I've lost control of the crane, so this thing's going out of control and people are freaking out. I think this panel should have been bigger, so I think I would have given this a little more room, right? Even just coming over a couple more inches and having this guy's the face over here more to show more of what's going on in the background with the bomb and maybe a couple more people running away. This is the more important panel for the story than this. All I have to do here is just, and the bomb should be lower to show the chains. So if I shrink the bomb down and make it this big, keep the Russian thing on it, and now it's got chains, and you can see the chains holding it up. I've got the exact same panel, but I've got more of the action here that I need. Really emphasizing this thing's going out of control, and because this is the more important storytelling panel. So that should have come to there as opposed to here. It's swinging and hitting a tree again. It's okay, but I like this sort of explosion, if you will, the tree, the snow popping up and snow coming off the tree. So we, in the first part we established that there's these big snowy like pine trees, and then here that's paying off where it swings in, hits it, and then again referencing here's the trailer. The trailer. We've got more. We see the trees again. Also, the crane. I guess it's, oh no, that's the trailer. But as I say, we established in this first here that there's a crane back here. So that all works. The only thing I would say is this area here is lots of unused space. Again, there's no real reason for it. It wouldn't be that hard to just change the angle so that the bond, instead of being much more horizontal to the reader, you could bring it down this way, right? So it's kind of coming at you more. You've got the chains, maybe one of them is snapping. It's still hitting the tree, and then yeah, maybe even, there's all this space. Maybe even here you've got the treads of the crane, because the crane isn't going to be that far away. So you got the crane, and then show it swinging, and now you've used up that real estate on the page a lot better. Here, the guy coming out, one of the things I noticed right off the bat is, so this is all going to be black area, and I've added a halo around it. Usually, that's something you would leave to the inker to decide. Do you want to add a white halo to make this figure pop out? And you normally do it to separate something that's black in the foreground from something that's black in the background. And, right, so if I was to go like this, so let's pretend it's black. We'll just pretend that this green is this black background. So I've got black all the way up to that. So you would have your ink all the way up to this little white line that surrounds the figure. You can do it, but what's the difference between that and just having it go to the edge of the figure, right? Because all of the stuff, his hair, his jacket, there's nothing that's black. There's nothing that's really going to blend into the shadows where you go, wait, where does it stop? Where does it end? He is clearly in front of it, whether I put a white outline around him or not. Even to here, I've left a white, almost like a little light, like a little highlight on the back, so his arm is casting a shadow on his jacket. I don't need another highlight, right? Same thing here. The shadow doesn't come all the way to the edge of the jacket. So if I color in that little halo that I put in there, it doesn't hurt anything. So there's no need to have it other than it's something I'm sure I saw somebody do that I thought would be cool, but there's absolutely no reason for it, no call for it. The other thing about this panel is he's coming out, he's opening the door, and the way the door is, you can see at the door there's a handle, and this is clearly a doorway. But the door kind of, it feels like this would be like the edge of the door, because it goes right there. It's not like it's way out here, because it was way out to the side you can see the door handle. So this would be right the edge of the door, if you could see the handle like that. So really what needs to happen is, for this door, is I either need to not worry about the door, don't show the handle, just have him coming out. You've established that this has this sort of, like siding on it, and you can see I've replicated that siding there. So hopefully that tells you he's coming out of here. Or you have to just make him much smaller. There's no reason he can't be a full figure inside of a doorway, busting out of the doorway. I don't need to draw him this big, right? So just if it's important that you show him coming out of this trailer thing, whatever, then show him coming out of it, not just out of a door that you can't tell what it is. So there's a few things. All right, so the next page, and this is actually the next page. Yeah, that was page 3. This is page 4. So here he's gone over to check the bomb and make sure it hasn't it's okay. And so you can see like a schematic, and then you've got this keypad. And if I'm not mistaken, I believe that most of these are actual Russian letters. I'm pretty sure. Could be wrong. I don't. I thought that that's what I did, but I'm not sure. So he's checking it, and everything's cool. Here, so in the first panel, him kneeling down in the snow, lifting up this access panel, checking out the display. That is fine. I like this angle of the bomb. I like the impact of it in the snow. Right? You can see it's kind of buried itself in the snow some. I've got a couple guys in the foreground here is what this is. These are supposed to be their hats. Again, lots of empty space. Now, if there's a ton of dialogue, like if there's 3 people and they're talking blah, 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 great. I've left lots of room. But otherwise, I don't know that there's a meaningful lots of room. So again, I could have made this guy bigger here, right? And done a coat, some shoulders, hair, some ears. But I could have done this to take up some of that room. I could have added another. So he's kneeling down, so another figure you would have only seen like from their waist down, into the snow. Boots. Right, but we know that there's other like soldiers and stuff around, so maybe somebody there. Again, using that space to tell the story. Don't leave the empty space, because then you're not using it to tell the story. Let's see. So then we come down. He's giving some commands to this guy that, all right, everything's cool, get it back on, we're going. This guy, which actually I've established, and this is one of the things I didn't mention, but I like it. So I've put this guy, and everybody's sort of wearing similar stuff in terms of furry coats and furry hats. But I've given this guy this scar on the side of his face, so that when you see him again later, you recognize this is the guy who was driving or was running the train, right? So he's coming to apologize. I'm sorry, I don't know what happened. And then we see this guy, he pulls his gun and shoots him for the squirrel. Okay, so these up here are cool. This one down here, this again was me trying to figure out how do you show a couple of people talking with still showing both of their faces at the same time, right? Because either if somebody's talking, this is their face, this is the other person's back, or they're talking profile like this, or this. So, I'm kind of putting him over the shoulder like, hey man, he's grabbing him and going, hey, you gotta take care of this with that. But the way the panel is, and I apologize, it's cut off on it out a little bit, but it really is, there isn't much over on the side. This is jammed in. This arm is way too short for this point. The arm either needs to go off panel, or it needs to come down, right? Because this is the shoulder, this would be like the bicep, and this would be this here, and then his hand would be like. So this makes much more sense. This other arm is way too small. This guy's hand is too small. Hand should be bigger. Otherwise, the rest of that isn't so bad. This shoulder will be up here. It's a little weird, again, because I'm just trying to figure it out. There's no reason not to have this guy's back to the camera, or this guy just offhand giving directions. He's obviously some sort of bad guy leader. He doesn't need to be face to face with anybody, right? This guy coming up from behind and in the back, we see that they're picking up. This is the missile. There's the indentation where the missile is, the snow falling off. He apologizes. We see the hand with the gun being pulled, and then the shooting. This part is, I kind of like this, where this is very foreground. I like the foreshortening of this going into the background. The bang, the reaction of the shot. He's not, and he doesn't even care. He's not even looking. The shading here is not bad. This panel works. It's probably so far out of 2 pages, the one good panel so far. One thing I will note, and I'm going to use the smaller pen. The one thing I don't like here is the mouth. So I've given them kind of real big cartoony eyebrows as just a way to identify the character. And if I'm not mistaken, I didn't design this character. This is based on my take on a drawing of this character from somebody else. But here's the thing. This mouth does not curve the right way. Right? So I know he's scowling, and that's fine. But your head goes... You know what? I'll go back to the video. Your head is curved. This. And that's one of the things that we have to draw, we have to emphasize as artists, is that curvature of your head, which means your front teeth make your teeth make a horseshoe shape, if you will, from the back around to the front. But even if the guy's scowling, his teeth still go like that. And then from there you can make the lips whatever you want. So let me do it up here. So the teeth in your head, your front teeth, they curve back away regardless of what shape your lips are. Right? So that would be, if you had no lips, that's what your teeth look like. So you always have this curvature. Then what you do is over the top, you can come in and go, right, his mouth is scowling down. So this can be black vein inside of the mouth. And the bottom of the bottom lip. Right. So you've got this curvature to your teeth, and in this, I didn't do it. It's flat. What I did there is I just went and making a cartoon mouth, and the teeth are straight across. So what it should be is you can still make the scowl, and then that goes, and that's the difference. This, not good. This, correct. Okay. All right. Two more pages of this, and we'll be on to the next thing in the next video. But this one I wanted to show you because this is a lot of talking heads. And it's one of the things you absolutely need to get comfortable with. You need to figure out and be good at when you're doing comics, because so much, we all want to draw Batman punching out bad guys, or Superman flying through robots or a building or whatever. And the reality is that's probably 10%, maybe 15% of what you draw. The other 85 to 90% of what you draw is people talking to each other because they're telling stories, and that's what it is. So it's something you definitely need to get comfortable with. Now again, I'm working from a full script, and that tells me how many panels I'm going to have on each page and what exactly is in each panel. So I don't have the choice over this. What I do have, though, is a choice of how I arrange the panels inside it, and that's where I could have made some different choices possibly on this page, but there's a lot of information that's packed into this, and that does make it hard. So if you look, you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 panels on one page. And I am working at this point still in a very traditional grid type process. In each panel is outlined uniquely. I'm not doing anything with no panel border. I'm not doing anything where it leads from one to the other, or anything like that. Because this is like a very early job. I know at this point it's going to see print because I know this isn't the first issue of this comic book. This publisher had printed numerous issues prior, so I knew if I completed it, it was going to see print. It was going to be done, and so I was trying to stay as traditional as I could and be as clear with my storytelling as I could. So you've got these two figures, and they're in a car. The girl is dropping the guy off. He gets out of the car, he goes into this building, and I guess he looks back one last time. Walks into the building, comes to this woman. He kind of berates her about something, and then shows her, no, look, it's just an empty briefcase. And then she gives him a little smile, and they keep having their conversation. So there's this. She's talking to him, so I know there's some dialogue here. I will say this. So they're in a car. I have given her a seatbelt. There is a hint of the windows of this particular kind of car. There's a little bit of a door or armrest on the door, and then I think this is the door handle, right, to open the door. Again, very specific to this kind of car. The rest of it, though, you'll notice I just was like, let's just make it shadows. And again, I knew there's going to be dialogue. The inside of a car is usually fairly dark, even in the day, right? You don't get a ton of light with all sorts of details of like the fabric on the ceiling and the pieces going, little plastic pieces going between the windows and all that. It's not important for the story, so all you're doing is trying to show them inside of a space. So in my opinion, making it black like that, I don't have a problem with it. One of the things I think here, again, when you have a page that is so limited on space, because when I know I'm going to have 8 panels, I know that these are going to have fairly heavy dialogue. I should have made this stuff smaller, this stuff bigger. Okay, so I could have pulled this over by making this panel smaller. Again, I don't need his whole face. I know it's him. He's looking out the window. She's who's important because she's talking, so it wouldn't be a big deal to crop him. So cropping means just like in a photograph, he doesn't have to be all the way into the photograph. So an eye when he's looking out still sets up that they're sitting next to each other in the car. He's wearing a suit, so you still have those details. You move her over a little bit to here in the car. That even might be able to give me details of like I could add a steering wheel, but I could also pull this border over a little bit here or bump it up a little bit. This part, again, this panel could be, both of these could be smaller. This one, I don't know, I don't remember what kind of dialogue or anything would be in this. But it would be to show him going into a door and then walking into a hallway through the door. Knowing how much I have over here, what would it have taken to go, 1, 2, 3, and cut this in half? So show him full figure, so the whole thing. He's got his briefcase. He's going to open the door. In this panel, then here, walking through the door, as we have in here, and now these could all be bigger to fit in this dialogue. So this is gone. This now becomes, instead of this squished down here, you could move this one up here, this one down here, and then these two panels here have equal space. So anyway, just a lot of things that could be reworked to do it. Yeah, I don't know how clear this is that he's walked. I mean, he's opening the door here, but is it clear that he's then inside? So maybe have this. So these are double doors. Okay, so you could have one of the double door on this side still be ajar. Would help show that he came through the door. What else? I don't know. That's one way. Maybe again, if he's smaller, if we're doing this panel down here and he's smaller, you can make the door bigger to show it's that he through it. There's this lady who's sitting at a table. It would not have been bad to establish her sitting at the table. All we ever see is this sort of close-up, a medium shot of her. So maybe what I should have done is had him, instead of here, imagine he's, let's do this. So this panel would have been establishing that he's walking into this building, and we know it's him because he's got his suit on, and then there's this lady, glasses, and she's at this desk, sitting at this desk. So we see the whole desk, maybe we see her nameplate, and then behind her we established there was some trophy cases, on the door, stuff like that. But establishing her there, which is, I don't know why she has a desk in the middle of the, maybe she's got a phone, up with some pencils or something. So establishing her fully, as opposed to just this, I think would have been a better. Here she just sort of pops up and you don't know what's going on. This is supposed to be like a gag where I think he's saying, "You didn't even ask me to look in this briefcase. I could have a crazy bomb in here," but I don't. I'm just kidding. I guess he catches himself like, "Oh, I'm just kidding." She's like, "Yeah, you're weird." Okay. This is a response to these I'm okay with, but again, we need some sort of establishing shot of who she is, where she is in space, having it cropped in this type of. So this is kind of a weird page, a lot of exposition, a lot of dialogue and stuff like that in it, along with visuals. Definitely tons of ways to do that. Okay, last panel, the last page for this series. So I've skipped ahead several pages. The last was page 5. We're now skipping to page 30. And the reason I wanted to do that was to show an action an action sequence. And again, some of the lines may be a little faint because of the photocopy quality that I then printed off of. But this woman is, she's sneaking through a home, she's coming through a doorway, she's got a gun, she's prepared, she thinks she's prepared. Boom, there's a bad guy and he has a baton and he knocks the gun out of her hand. She, in turn, snatches the baton away from him. We're establishing ends up being important. You'll see, obviously, here that he's in front of this window. He puts his hands up like, whoa, no, no, no. And then, of course, he has a little gun up his sleeve because he's going to shoot her, he's going to trigger. She comes around with this big roundhouse kick before he can pull the gun on her, and she kicks him out the window where he falls from the second story to his death. It is when we establish, you don't see it because I'm not showing you the page, but the page before she's walking up the staircase. And actually, that's behind it. So, this one here. So, we have a doorway, we have a close-up, we have the shadows as she's coming out of the dark staircase. She's got the gun. I don't really have any problems with this other than thumb is a little weird. That should be considerably smaller. She's got some very large hands for a lady, but not the end of the world. But otherwise, it's okay. Again, face, shadows, coming out of a door we've already established on another page. This perspective here, I just noticed, this doesn't work. If you drew this through her hand, that would mean, again, kind of pretending it went this way, the bottom of the door would be this line here. So she's only that tall. So this either has to be much sharper, which would make a lot more sense. This wall is running much more perpendicular to the doorway than at an angle to it. So if I had just done that, but again, that's not understanding the proper perspective. So that definitely should go down. He knocks the gun out of her hand. Lots of motion stuff. There's things you have to do. It's tough when you have multiple actions in a single static picture, right? The baton is being swung, the gun is being knocked away. If you don't have something that shows the motion, you don't understand which direction the baton came from. And that's a little tough. Her ponytail and the streamers from her mask show that she's ducking down, and her hair going out here in front. So she ducked it. So that part doesn't need any motion, which is good. I didn't include that. But this has here, and then knocking the gun out. Again, I'm not upset about it. It is okay. It is not a problem. The facial expression I like. She snaps the baton away quickly. This angle showing, so I'm going to switch the camera, if you will, so that instead of pointed from sort of the bad guy's perspective, now it's behind her perspective. That shows you this big window we've set up, which works. The only thing I would say is he's cut off right at this like mid calf. Again, showing feet, it wouldn't be a bad idea to make him small enough that he could fit in the whole panel. That would mean she would have to be forward a little more as well, but that would be okay. This is tough. I didn't know how. I remember this thing, like, how do I show a guy popping a little gun out of his sleeve, like a hidden gun out of his out of his sleeve because it's a motion. If you don't show it like in a movie or something, it doesn't make sense. Like, why is this gun suddenly there? That's a tough one. Unless you draw unless he's got like a whole mechanism for it, I guess. It's funny because it's a lot easier if you wanted to show right. We do this all the time in comics. You just show somebody, um, like, say, Wolverine. So Wolverine from the X-Men has claws that come out of his hand. And so when you draw Wolverine's hand, you draw his hand like that, and then in the next panel, when you draw it, you just draw the claws out, and there's a sound effect that goes with it. And it makes sense. But for me, for whatever reason, a gun, because it's not normally a moving object, just seems weak. But I love the guy's facial expression and the mask, the details of the ribbon of the mask. I like that a lot. I think that works for me. The shading is fine. I am good with that. I like the motion of the kick here, right? So she's got this leg, this leg down here in the ankle could even be over a little further, right? Because this would be your hip here, right? So that would be kind of that way, and then this would be the other way. It's a little bit of an awkward, it's a weird, yeah, yeah. But I like the motion of it for sure. The size of the foot coming across, the angle of the body back, the balance of, so this arm and that arm, that works for me. The piece that doesn't really work here on this page is this angle. So this is supposed to be the stairwell that she has come up. So if you've ever walked up like a hallway stairwell, you don't walk at a 45-degree angle to the door, right? The how do I explain it? The way this is with this perspective line coming down means that the stairwell is at an angle to this. Instead of the stairs would be going down here, right? Going straight down that way. So this would be, the ceiling of this would be going down, not to the side. So I don't, it's not right, it's messed up. That's a problem. And then here we've established it's the outside of the house. This part is fine. This part is fine. This part is even okay, probably. So let's say, all right, so this would go off into forever, and then this would go off, and then this would go that way, and then that goes off on its own. So the problem here is that either if the roof and this are in correct perspective, then the window should be straighter. Is a way to tilt. Or if this is correct, then the roof has to be in perspective. So either way, it's wrong. The perspective is wrong, and I haven't sat down and done the grid. So let me real quick show you what I talk about. When we talk about perspective grid, there is a basic one-point perspective. You have your horizon line, you have a point in space, and then everything goes back to that point in space. So that's one point perspective. So if you draw a building, the top of that building goes to that space. If you draw a telephone pole, the top of it goes back to that space. So that everything goes back to that. So if you have a window, that goes back to the point, that one goes to the point, and then you draw it straight together. That's 1 point perspective. So in this case, right, we had bottom 4 windows, and they would go back to the point, the top window, and the roof would all go in the right thing. But if you did it, where, if it didn't line up. The other one is more complicated. Is 2 point perspective. So you basically have 2 vantage points. Screw this up. But you basically have a line in the sort of your center point, and everything goes back to both points. So again, kind of think of like imagine you're standing at like the corner of your house. So if this is the corner of the house, this side goes back this way. This side goes back this way. And then these windows will go to this point. Go to that point. And that is 2 point perspective. Then you end up with 3 point perspective, which also has to do with up, which is usually for things like a skyscraper. So it's sort of the same thing. So not only do the lines, all these lines go here, like this, but then all the lines from the ground up also this way. Again, so if you are standing on the ground level on the sidewalk and looking up at a skyscraper, all these windows and things are going to be smaller the further up you go, because they're all going to go, this is the distance, this is the distance. Okay, so that's 1, 2, 3 point perspective. And if you're drawing a lot of buildings, so if you're drawing skyscrapers, if you're drawing houses, if you're drawing a room, it could be a street. I've done it with staircases. I've done it with overhead shots where I'm showing lots of buildings, roads. What you do ahead of time before you draw in your stuff is you take your panel, you decide where your vanishing points are, and you draw a whole grid. And you can start by like you draw your. I always do my horizontals and verticals. Horizontals and verticals, and then I decide, okay, where's everything coming from? So, and then from there, I'll draw. Let's say I want everything from here, so I'll draw all my lines. This. So I do all the ones to that point, and then I do all the ones to that point, and I do this all super light. It all gets erased in the end. It's all measured out, and then the same thing. That, and what you've got then is you've got this really nice pre-made grid that shows you if I want to draw a building now, I know what my perspective is. I know where my vertical lines go, I know where the horizontal lines go, I know all that stuff. And when I draw it, it's all going to be in the correct perspective because I've done all this whole grid work out ahead of time. So that's how you do it if you want to do it right. This is how you do it if you don't know what you're doing and you just fake it. The guy going through the window is good. I like his arms flailing. I like the glass popping out. Could be some detail on the house. So most houses either have siding or stucco or something. It's not just a blank something. So again, probably because I didn't want to do perspective, I didn't want to do a bunch of siding lines because, again, they would have had to all be at the right angle. Correct. But that would have made it feel like a more of a real house, right? Instead of just a big black building. So at this point, like I said, so this is a book that did get published. It got inked, it got colored, it saw print. I have copies of it, and that was a big step. Up to that point, I had um, one other thing that had been done and printed, but was much more of a homegrown piece that we did. My friend and I did. This was somebody that had a history of publishing, who had done several books in this line. I was just the next artist to take over and do an issue for them. So it was cool, and doing this also got me then into the comic book convention scene, because that was part of it. This publisher would go to his local comic book conventions every year, and that's where he sold his books and where he had a following. And so, being the latest artist on the book, I got to go and be part of it, sit behind the table, and really get a feel for that. That spun me into a whole other direction and part of my career that's been very interesting until, of course, this year. Um, but it's been good, and it was a very hard project. It was, I think, the whole thing ended up being 40 pages, and it was very lengthy, very demanding because of the details of the script and how exactly what it had to have. But again, part of the learning process, a great learning process, something I picked up on a lot of information on, and then I moved on to the next project, and those will be some of the next pages that I show you in the next video. So thank you again for checking this out. I appreciate it very much. Please let me know if you have any questions or comments about the videos, anything that you'd like to see different or more of in the future. But keep looking for the videos. I'm going to keep doing them, and eventually, as you can see, we're getting closer and closer, and eventually see some current work that I'm working on. So thank you again, and keep drawing.